Yeah. All right, so for the science part, the answer to number 1 is B. So it's B. Yeah. We saw this question some time ago, all right? So there's a chemical released, something was released from the nerve of the heart in jar A into the fluid that stimulated the heart in jar B. And then for number 2, it said, if hydrogen ion concentration of solution is 1 × 10 to the power -3, what can you say about this solution? Okay. So we need to find the pH of this solution to be able to determine that it's an acid or a base. So as I said, you look at the exponents, right? You have 1 × 10 to the power -3. If it's in this form, just look at the exponent here and take the opposite of the exponent, right? So the pH will be equal to negative of -3. And then that gives us 3, pH of 3, all right? So if the pH is 3, now remember the pH scale. The pH scale ranges from 0 all the way to 14, right? 7 is neutral. So the acidity increases as you go towards the left, right? Closer to 0, it's become more acidic. If you go towards the right side, towards 14, it becomes more basic. So increasing basicity. Whilst if you go towards the left, is increasing acidity. You know, so here, because the pH is 3, it's a strong acid, close to 0. So it's a strong acid. So it's B. Okay. Now remember, I said this trick will only work out if you have 1 × 10 to the power -3. If it's any other thing, you cannot use this. If it's 2 × 10 to the power, let's say -3, you cannot do what I did here. All right. Then you have to think about pH is equal to negative log of the hydrogen ion concentration. Okay, so that's the definition of pH. Okay, but because it's 1 × 10 to the power -3, if you do the math, it basically comes to the opposite of the exponent, right? Let's just do a quick math and see. So what I'm saying is that if you do, so this is negative log of 1 × 10 to the power -3. Right, this is the same as negative log of 10 to the power -3. Anything times 1 is the same number. Then if you apply the power rule for exponent, for log, you can bring the exponent in front of the log. This can come down, so it becomes negative of -3. Sorry, this comes down, becomes -3 log of 10. Okay, you can always bring the exponent in front of the log. That's called a power rule. Okay. Log 10 is always 1, okay, because the base for log here is 10. So 10 to base 10. Log of 10 is 1. So -3 times 1. I left the negative sign here. This should be negative of -3. Negative of -3 here. So negative of -3 becomes positive. It gives us a positive number. So you have 3 times 1, and that gives us the 3. Okay, so that's the math aspect of what I did. Okay. So quickly, once you see anything 1 × 10 to the power a certain exponent, just take the opposite of the exponent, and then you have your answer. Okay. Because that's the way usually you're going to get it. If you have to go the other way around, you need a calculator to do that, which I don't believe you're going to get that on the test. Great. So for number 3, a student placed blue ink drop in a jar of water. After some time, the whole water turned blue. Which of the following processes occurred? All right. So in this question, the answer is simple diffusion. Simple diffusion. All right. Simple diffusion. Because the drop is concentrated in the water, and then the molecule is concentrated here for the blue ink. If it's pressed out, it means moving from high concentration to a lower concentrated region. So that's simple diffusion. Okay. Water enters the root of plants by which of the following process? It's osmosis. Osmosis. Remember, the roots have a lot of dissolved salts in them. It's concentrated salt in the roots. So within the roots, you have hypertonic solution in the roots. So you have water outside, the water will be hypotonic. So the water will move from the hypotonic solution through the semi-permeable membrane, the plasma membrane around the roots. It's semi-permeable. So because of that, you're going to have osmosis taking place. The flow of water from hypotonic solution to hypertonic solution through a semi-permeable membrane. That's osmosis. Then chloroplasts can be found in which of these cell structures? Talk about chloroplasts. So chloroplasts, remember, in plants, found in plants. So you can do elimination here. Liver cell is not a plant, so this is out. Frog out, because animals. So it's between C and D, right? You can do the process of elimination between C and D. Now, where do you have the chloroplast? The chloroplast cannot be in a nucleus. The chloroplast is a whole organelle by itself, so it can be found in cytoplasm. The cytoplasm. Then number 6, during the formation of sodium chloride, sodium loses electron from its outermost shell to the chlorine. What type of bond is formed between these two atoms? Go between the two atoms. Because there's transfer, the key word here is transfer, right? One loses and the other one gains. So one is losing and the other one is gaining. Loss and the chlorine gains. So once you have a transfer, you form an ionic bond. Ionic bond. Okay. Remember, covalent bond means the sharing of electrons. Okay, but that's not what we're having, transfer of electrons here. So ionic bond. Then number 7, when red blood cell is placed in hypertonic solution, it will shrink. It's going to shrink. Okay, because I have a hypertonic solution, so the water is going to move out of the red blood cell. We're going to have hypertonic solution. Okay. Number 8, we saw that last time when we were doing our practice. All right, so here, many people believe that some trees drop their leaves in the late fall because the temperature is near freezing. Which of the following statements would least support this idea? All right, so least support this idea. The answer is D. Maple trees in southern Florida drop their leaves in late fall. The temperature in Florida is always warm, but then the maple leaves still drop their leaves. So you can't say that temperature late fall affects it, or freezing temperature affects it, because the Florida temperature is not freezing, but it's still dropping their leaves. And then number 9, what will be the end product of sucrose digestion? Keyword sucrose, end product. We are breaking down sucrose. So remember what we talk about, what we said about sucrose. What makes up sucrose? Sucrose is made up of glucose and fructose. Glucose and fructose, right? So if just a quick review, we said that the disaccharide, if you have maltose, maltose is made up of glucose and glucose. So 2 glucose molecules form maltose. If you have sucrose, you have glucose in it, and then the second sugar is fructose. So if you remember, I said it like to me, sucrose fructose rhymes in my mind. And then you have lactose. Lactose rhymes with galactose. So it's made out of glucose plus galactose. Okay, so those are the added components, right? So when they ask you what are the end products, it means that if you break them apart, what will you get? Okay, so number 10, which are the following with 10 blue-black when tested with Lugol solution? Remember, Lugol solution is same as the iodine solution, iodine, right? Iodine in alcohol. That's what I call the Lugol solution. So this is the test for starch, okay? Test for starch. Starch with 10 iodine blue-black, so starch. And number 11. Which structure includes all the others? Structure that includes all the others. So nucleolus, chromosomes, genes. You can find all this in the nucleus. So it's a nucleus. 12. Most cell membranes are composed principally of, so what makes up cell membrane? Okay, let's do a quick review of that. Remember, the cell membrane is made up of phospholipids. If you remember, I drew diagrams, circles like this. These are phospholipids where you have the head and the tails. They have some proteins that go through the membrane like that. So these are phospholipids, head and tail. Phospholipid. The head, which is a phosphate, is the hydrophilic part. And then the tail, which is the lipid part, is the tail, right? And that is the hydrophobic. So it's hiding itself in the middle. Yeah. So it's like a sandwich, having like a bread, and they have sandwich, they have butter in between, and then another bread. The lipid is hiding in the middle, and outward the phospholipids. Okay. And then the proteins, some go through the membrane. So this will be like the protein going through the membrane. Some protein goes through. It has some protein on the surface. It can have protein on the inside of the cell. Okay. That's why the cell is described as a bilipid layer. So the answer is the proteins and lipids. Number 13, which structure is usually present only in animal cell? Only in animal cell. So animal cell only, they have centriole. We find it only in animal cell, centriole. 14. Normally in the process of osmosis, the net flow of water molecules into or out of the cell depends on the differences in the concentration of the water molecules inside and outside. Okay, because that's going to determine whether it's going to be hypertonic or hypotonic. You have too much water, it becomes hypotonic. You have too much less water, you have less water, then it's hypertonic. Okay. And 15, sodium ions are pumped from a region of lower concentration to a region of higher concentration in the nerve cells of humans. This process is an example of, so here you're talking about from lower to a higher concentration. Okay. To do that, you need energy. Energy is needed. Okay, so here energy needed, pushing from lower to a higher concentrated region. So if energy is needed in the movement, then it has to be active transport. Number 16, an organelle differs from an organ in that it is a substructure of the cell. It's a substructure of the cell. Organelle, like mitochondrium, nucleus, lysosomes, and so on. They are substructures within the cell, of the cell. 17. A car is traveling at the speed of 20 miles per hour. How far will it travel in 5 hours? You've been given the speed and you know the time. You want to find distance. So remember that distance is equal to speed times time, or rate times time. So you know the speed. So remember the speed by the time. This is in hours and this is in hours, miles per hour, hours. So 20 times 5. And then that should give us 100 miles per hour. Sorry, 100 miles. That's the answer, 100 miles. Then number 18.
Hey, Professor, what's the answer for 15 and 16?
Number 16. It's A. Number 18.
15.
You want 15?
Yes.
Active transport.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, number 18. The atomic masses are given for calcium, oxygen, and hydrogen. And you want to find the molecular weight. So the molecular weight, calcium, you have one calcium over here. So 1 of calcium, so you have to know the weight. So this is 40. You have 2 times this, so it means 2 oxygens. The 2 affects the oxygen. So you have 2 of oxygen. So 2 times the weight of oxygen, 16. So 2 times 16, so that would be 32. And then you have 2 of hydrogens. 2 hydrogens. So 2 times the weight of hydrogen. So this is 2. So the molecular weight is adding all the numbers, all the weights. So if you add all these, you get 74. So molecular weight of 74. Number 19, the answer is 50. Remember, I said that to find the distance and under velocity time graph, right, is the area. The area under the velocity time graph, the line. 5 seconds. So we're looking at all this from 0 to 5. 5 seconds here, there. So the area under the line from 0 to 5 seconds, all this is the distance traveled by the car, okay? But distance is the velocity times time. But here we have a triangle. This one's a triangle. So the distance traveled, distance will be equal to the area under the line. Okay. Between the given interval. Okay. So since you have a triangle, we know that the area of a triangle is half base times height. So the distance here will be equal to the area of the shaded triangle. And we know that the area is half base times height. The base is 5. And the height here is 20. So if you simplify this, 2 can go into 20 10 times. So 5 times 10, and then that's 50. So 50 meters. The area under the graph or the line is the distance if you have a velocity time graph. Okay. And number 20 says that use a graph to answer number 20. So this is, all right. So the question says, during which time interval did the object travel the greatest distance? The greatest distance. Okay. So as we said already, the area is the distance, the area under the line between the given interval. So from 2 to 10, if you check 2 is here, 10 seconds is here. So distance traveled will be all this here. From 2 to 10, all right? And then distance travel for 4 to 10 will be from here to 10, and that'll be this area here, okay? But we want the greatest, and then 2 to 0 is from here. This is 2 to 0, and they have 10 to 12, that is here. So the greatest is a 2 to 10. That's the greatest area. 2 to 10. (21) Given the balance equation, so what is the coefficient of oxygen in the balance equation? Oxygen. All right, so let's see if we can balance this. We have 3 here. I'm going to look at the oxygen. You have 3 here, but you have 2 here, right? So what we could do is to make sure they have the same, we have the same number of atoms on both sides of the equals of the arrow. So to do that, we can think about the common multiple for these numbers, right? And to get a common multiple, that means that I can multiply the left side by 2. Then I can get 6 here, and I multiply the right side here by 3. So I have 6 oxygens, and then 6 oxygens on the right side to balance, all right? That means that I'll have to have 2 here. So I have 2 potassium, 2 potassium, 2 chlorine, 2 chlorine here to balance out, right? So the answer for this question is 3. You need 3 over there. (22) A student is observing a cell under the microscope. Which of these instruments will best remove the cell's nucleus, the nucleus? So if I remove the nucleus, the nucleus is very tiny. So, and you're dissecting, you're cutting. So you need a micro dissection apparatus. If you're not too sure, you can even do elimination. ultra centrifuge. You are spinning to separate so many things in the cell. Tissue forceps, too big. Micrometer for measuring length. So that's not going to be good to use that. So that's by process of elimination. 23. In most living things, all of the following groups of chemicals can be found, except one exception. You know that lipids can be found in cells. You know that nucleic acids can be found in cells, carbohydrates in cells. The only thing you can find is synthetic polymer. It's artificial substance. 24. An object travels a distance of 15 meters. When the force of 4 newtons act on it, what is the work done? So here you know the distance, you know the force. What's the relationship between work, distance, and force? We know that work done is equal to the force times the distance through which the force moves. Force times distance, that's work done. And the unit for work is joules. Okay, your notes, unit for work is joules. So I have 15 times 4. And then that will give us 60 joules of work done. "25. Which of the following is a function of the messenger RNA? Messenger RNA. It contains a code, has a code. Messenger, message. So the code for protein synthesis should be your answer. Remember tRNA doesn't read the code, it transfers. Because called transfer RNA. So this one transfers. It does a transfer of, it brings in the amino acid, tRNA. Transfers amino acid. Okay. 26. Which of the following is neutralization reaction? What's neutralization reaction? Neutralization is acid plus base to give you a salt and water. That's neutralization. All right. So out of this, you have B. That's the base. Sodium hydroxide is the base. ACl, that's the acid. This is a salt, NaCl, and then water. So you have B as your answer here. 27. Which of the following will turn litmus paper, red litmus paper blue? Red litmus becoming blue. That means you are dealing with a base or alkaline. Okay. So a base will turn red litmus blue. So out of this, which one is the base? It's sodium hydroxide. That's the base. So that's test for acid and bases. If it's an acid, the acid will turn red litmus paper blue, right? Opposites. And so use the diagram above to answer 28 and 29. So the diagram above illustrates which are the following. This is a reflex arc. Reflex arc. Then the spinal cord, and they have the nerves coming in and leaving. Okay. The part label 1. The part label 1 here. So this is bringing in the impulse to the spinal cord. So that is the sensory nerve. Another name for that is the efferent nerve. So if you see efferent next time, you know you're dealing with the same thing. same as the efferent nerve. The motor nerve is also known as the efferent nerve. Or neuron.
Professor?
Yes.
I am Nafisa. I was sick last week. That's why I couldn't attend your class. So I just finished sometimes ago, like some minutes ago, the science portion. So do I need to do right now the math portion also?
You mean to submit?
Yeah, for the math.
Yeah, everybody's supposed to submit both work.
And the last week, Professor, you also like record, I think, the class, right? In the Google Classroom.
You have everything in Google Classroom.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so 30. So if you didn't submit, everybody try and submit what you did so that I can see how everybody's performing. Okay. For number 30, organisms that produce sexually go through a stage of development called the blastula. The stage occurs during which part of the organism's development? Now, this one occurs within several hours after conception, right? Several hours after conception. Just after fertilization, few hours later, you have the zygote dividing to form the blastula, or we call it blastula. Okay. All right, number 31. The moon has 1/7 the mass of the Earth, 1/7, 1/7. Approximately how much will, I left something out here. I fixed it. Okay, I fixed it on the other one. So this is 100 pounds. The person weighs 100 pounds, right? It was correct on the Google form. So 100 pounds, that's the weight on the Earth. So if the weight is 1/7 that of the Earth, then on the moon, the person's weight to 1/7 times 100 pounds. And then that should give us 14, approximately 14 pounds on the moon. Okay. All right, so number 32 to 35. There's a diagram of the eye. So we have, in which structure will you find the rods and cones? Structure to find rods and cones. The rods and cones are in the retina. In the retina. So the retina is B. Retina is B. 33. Which structure is responsible for accommodation or focusing of image on the retina? Accommodation or focusing. Remember, that is the lens. The lens does that. The lens. Okay. Number 34. Which of the following is used for night and black and white vision? So the black and white vision, that's the rods. The rods. The cones are for color vision. Color vision, and also for daytime vision. Okay. Because they are very sensitive to light. They need a lot of light to stimulate them. A person who is short-sighted person is said to be myopic. Person is myopic, short-sighted. Okay. The person is long-sighted, that is called hypermetropia. Or the person is hypermetropic. This one is long-sighted. Okay, then presbyopic is a condition that affects like older people. Hypotensive have to do with blood pressure. Okay, like other people, presbyopic, their cornea becomes affected. 36. In the human ear, the semicircular canals help in balancing of the body, whereas the cochlea is involved in hearing. So cochlea for hearing, semicircular canal for balancing. So that is B, balancing. (37) There are 5 grams of salt dissolved in 25 ml of water. What percentage of solution is it? What percent of solution? So you have 5 grams in 25 of water. Okay, 5 in 25. So to get a percentage, you multiply by 100. So it means you're going to have 20% of the salt dissolved in the water. So 20%. 38. So which structure functions as the cardiorespiratory center? Functions as the cardiorespiratory center. So this is the medulla oblongata. 39. The left ventricle pumps oxygenated blood to all parts of the body via the aorta. Via the aorta. Okay. So remember, we drew the circulatory system, and I used a box as an example to illustrate the circulatory system. So we have the lungs. If you remember, we have the lung, left ventricle, we have the right ventricle, left atrium here, right ventricle there, left atrium, then I have the left ventricle here. Okay. Then blood comes from, deoxygenated blood comes in from different parts of the body. And then it goes to the right atrium. Okay, so this is inferior vena cava. If you remember that, inferior vena cava. From the leg region, and from the head region, you have the superior vena cava. Okay, so the blue one represents deoxygenated blood, all right, coming in. Then it goes through the tricuspid valve here into the right ventricle, and the right ventricle pump the blood to the lung. All right, it goes to the lung. And from the lung, oxygen is added to it. And the blood flows through the pulmonary vein to the left ventricle. And then from the left ventricle, the blood goes through the bicuspid valve into the left ventricle. And the left ventricle pumps the blood through the aorta to different parts of the body. So that's the aorta. This is the pulmonary vein. And then here you have the pulmonary artery here. Pulmonary artery. All right. So that was the overview. And then 40, what type of circuit do we have here? This is a parallel circuit. Parallel circuit. Because there's an alternate pathway. If we block here, the current can still flow through there and there. Okay. If I block here, it can still bypass and flow through the other places. So there's an alternate path of flow if you block one path. Okay. So that is a parallel circuit. Series, there's only one path. So if a series will be like, there's a series, you know. Yeah, that would be series. (41). Which equation summarizes photosynthesis? Photosynthesis. So photosynthesis, you need carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, water from soil, in the presence of oxygen, in the presence of energy, sunlight, to produce glucose and oxygen as a waste. So this is your glucose, C6H12O6, and that's oxygen. So the first one is the correct answer. Okay. Know the difference between respiration and photosynthesis, the formulas. Okay. If you switch backwards, if you turn backwards, then you will have respiration formula. Okay. So know this equation very well. So the second one that you see here, this is for respiration. This is respiration. Okay. Number 42, water goes from the roots of plant, the roots through the plant vessel called xylem, and the glucose formed in the leaves is transported to storage sites via the plant vessel called the phloem. So the xylem and phloem. (43). The formula represents, which formula represents a compound containing one double bond? You have one double bond. So you have one double bond, it means that you are dealing with an alkene. Alkene. And we said that alkene, the formula is CnH2n. The hydrogen is 2 times the number of carbons. So when I come here, this is my alkene. It's going to have a double bond. Okay. (44). The villi in the small intestine are present too. We said it has to what? Increase the surface area for absorption of digested food. Function of the villi. Villi, the finger-like projections on the surface of the intestine. Villi. Finger-like projections. (45). The basic functional unit of the genitourinary system is a nephron. So a nephron, that's why you produce the urine. The basic functional unit. Nephron. Number 46. Which of the following nuclear processes is illustrated by the following equation? You have 2 atoms being combined together. So when you combine 2 atoms together, we're talking about to give a single atom. So you have nuclear fusion. You are joining. Remember, we said fusion is joining the atoms. Fission, you are splitting atoms. Okay. We talk about that under radioactivity. 47. Which of the following will result in the formation of homogeneous solution, homogeneous solution. So homogeneous solution, there's no boundary. You don't see any boundary between the components, right? So what will give us that? It will be salt and water. If you dissolve salt and water, you can't see any boundary between the salt and water, only one phase. Okay, so this diagram here, the following table shows the volume. So we have 0.1 mole per liter of sodium hydroxide added to 15 ml of 0.1 mole per liter of acid, ACl, in titration. So when you perform titration, the equivalent point occurs when there's neutralization. The acid neutralizes the base. And we know that neutralization has a pH. At the neutralization, the pH is 7. So that's the pH here, 7. So the volume that you have at that point is the equivalent point. So this equivalence point. So the answer is 15. pH of 7, neutralization, occurs when you have added 50 ml. Okay. Now 49, how do you distinguish between sodium, potassium, and calcium substances, compounds containing that? To distinguish between these, you do what we call the flame test. Flame test. If you put them in a flame, they give off different colors, very beautiful colors. If you get a chance, look at this on the internet, nice colors. Sodium give a different color, potassium, different color, calcium, different color. 50, an animal with a chitinous exoskeleton. Exoskeleton means on the outside, right? So chitin on the shell or on the outer covering. And jointed appendages. Jointed appendages. That means like this, jointed appendages. Good. Then that's so those are jointed appendages. Okay. Exoskeleton, hard covering on the outside. You classify them as arthropods, arthropoda, arthropodas. For example, the insects belong to this group. Chordata, chordates, they have backbone. Animals with backbone. Chordates, okay, like dogs and so on, cats, etc. Annelida, annelids, these are worms. The worms belong here. Protozoa, protozoa are one-cell organisms. Okay, one-cell organisms. Okay. The example of protozoa would be like amoeba. Amoeba is an example of a protozoa. #51. If 200 grams of radioactive substance disintegrates to 50 grams after 8 days, so it started at 200 grams. So radioactivity and half-life, remember half-life, time taken for half of the substance to decay or to break down. So if we start with 200, we say we can do this mathematically, use arithmetically. Break it down, half-life, first half-life, half of this will be left, so I have 100 grams left. another half-life. You have 50 grams left. Half of what you started with will be left. And all this took 8 days. 8 days. Okay. So if I look here, I have 2 half-lives. 1 and 2. 2 half-lives to get 50. That means that I have to divide this 8 days into 2 parts. 2 half-lives. So if I divide this by 2, then I'll end up with 4. So that means from here to there, this is 4 here, and this is 4 days. Yes. So half-life of 4 days. Every 4 days, half of the substance will be left. Then 52. 2 forces of magnitude, 8 newtons and 15 newtons, act on an object as shown below. What is the magnitude of the resultant force on the object? So look, we're talking about resultant force. These are acting in opposite directions, right? Opposite directions. So opposite directions, we said that you have to subtract the forces to get a resultant. So 7 newtons. Okay, number 53. A food substance is placed in blue Benedict solution and heated. The color of the solution turns brick red. So the blue becomes brick red. The color change indicates the presence of, then you test, this is testing you on what Benedict solution does. So Benedict solution, you can use test for the presence of reducing sugars. An example of that is glucose. Test for glucose. It turns Benedict solution brick red. Purple or blue becomes brick red. 54. When a short bean plant is pollinated with pollen from a tall plant, half of the seeds, half of these turn out to be short, 50% short. So what conclusion can we make from this observation? Now, if you go through all the crossings, say the short plant was heterozygous dominant, and it cannot be that. Now the tall plant is homozygous dominant. It cannot be that. The tall plant was heterozygote. Yes, that is what it should be. Think about the Punnett Square. The Punnett Square. Shortness is recessive. So if you're doing the Punnett Square, it will look like this. So it's short, so you have to lowercase. Now, the tall one, if it's heterozygote, that means heterozygous tall. So the genes should be this. Now, if you cross that, you see you have T, T, uppercase T, lowercase, then lowercase T here, and lowercase T. So this tells you that you have 2 tall. This is tall. This is going to be tall, tall. So 2 out of 4, tall. And then this will be short. These are short. So again, we have 2 out of total 4, short. So that's where the 50-50 comes in, half-half. 50% tall, 50% short. Okay. So the person has to be heterozygous. That's the only way you can have that. 55, an organism that contains specialized system for distributing digested food throughout the body is, okay, so do elimination. Amoeba is 1 cell organism, protozoa. It doesn't need any specialized system. Paramecium, 1 cell. That also doesn't need any specialized system for distribution. Now, earthworm is a more complex organism than all the other ones, right? Hydra is also a tiny organism. It's multi-cell, but it's also not too complex. So it cannot be this. Earthworm is the one that has a well-developed system for distributing food. It's a more complex organism. And 56, which of the following is an endocrine gland? Endocrine gland. Cast your mind back to endocrine glands. Out of all this is the pineal gland that is part of the endocrine gland. Sweat gland, sebaceous gland, tear gland, these are all exocrine. All these are exocrine glands. Exocrine gland means what? They have ducts, right? Ducts present. Endocrine, no duct, ductless. And 57. 57, think about your things that you do in the lab, weighing in the lab. So if I have a hydrate, that means there's water in it, hydrate, substance of water. So it is a crucible. The crucible weighs 15 grams, the empty. Then you put in your hydrate. So if you put in the hydrate, together with the hydrate, the whole thing here weighs 22 grams. 22 grams. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the weight of the hydrate here? So this is a hydrate. So the weight of the hydrate will be 22 minus 5. 22 minus 15. So the hydrate here weighs 7 grams. That's the weight of the hydrates. Now, after you heat this up, after heating, when you heat this up, it dries off the water. So now we're going to have the dry form, the anhydrous form. So water is off. Okay, the weight of the hydrate of the crucible here is still 15 grams, right? What will the weight of the anhydrate or the dry form? The total weight here was 18 grams. So to get the weight of the hydrate here is 18 minus 15. So it means that the hydrate weighs 3 grams. So this was 7 grams, this was 3 grams. So what is the weight of the water? What's the weight of the water? I think I left the question out in this particular one. The question should be, what is the weight of the water? That's the question here. What is the weight of the water? Okay. That's what we want to find here. So the weight of water is 7 minus 3, and that is 4 grams. 4 grams, so it should be B. Okay, but you can also do this quickly without going through all that I did here. And this just to illustrate what is happening to you. But I can do this quickly. Now, how can I do this quickly? Just take the weight of the hydrate, which is this, minus the weight of the substance left after heating. And that's that. All right. So if I just do 22 minus the 18, it will give me the answer 4 grams. Quicker. But I did all this to show you what is happening. It's like you take out the weight of the empty, the crucible from each of them. And then you have the weight of the substance themselves. So if you get this question like this, you can just do mass of the hydrate minus the mass after you've driven off the water. And then that will give you the amount of water in it. Okay. And then number 58 says modern day giraffes appear to have longer necks than their ancestors. Lamarck will explain this phenomenon by his theory of, the answer here is use and disuse. Use and disuse. If you use it, you gain. If you don't use it, you lose it. You know. So he said that because the giraffe, they're stretching their neck in order to get food from the get leaves on a tree. After doing that for some time, they develop very long necks in order to be able to survive. So a similar idea is if you lift weights, the muscles, you know, they become bulkier and bulkier. The more you use it, the more it becomes bulky. Okay. Survival of the fittest, that one was Darwin, by Charles Darwin. He proposed that one. Okay. And the natural selection. And then 59 is an interesting question. Most of the time when I ask that, some people get it wrong. So it's a branch of an orange tree is grafted onto a grape tree. Which of these fruits will be produced by the grafted branch? Okay, so I have orange here. You graft it into so this is the grape tree. And orange. So what's going to happen? So here say A, oranges only, grapefruit only, both orange and grapefruits, a hybrid fruit with characteristics of both oranges and grapefruit. Okay, now the answer is orange only, orange only. If you graft a branch, okay, that branch is going to bear the same thing that it bears, right? So like will bear like. Orange will always bear orange. Grape will always bear grape, not a mixture of the two. Just grafted a branch because it's just getting nutrients from the grape branch. Okay. And then number 60, which of the following will occur during inspiration? So during inspiration, the diaphragm goes down. The rib cage moves outward and moves upward, outward. So what's going to happen? I mean, the volume of the thoracic cavity increases. Because the volume has increased, the pressure will go down. The pressure goes down. So the pressure in thoracic cavity is lower than the atmospheric pressure. So the pressure will force the air in, so you take air in, and that is inspiration, right? Remember we said this is related to Boyle's law. Boyle's law, the inverse proportionality between pressure and volume, okay, at a constant temperature. Okay. So the answer here is therefore going to be A. The diaphragm moves down, the volume, thoracic volume increases, intrathoracic pressure goes down, and air rushes in. A. Okay. Right. So these are the answers to the practice test for the science portion. Okay. Does anybody have any question on this particular one? On the science? Okay. All right, let's tackle the math part. And then you can come back if you have any questions.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome. But we're going to do the other part. So, okay. The math part now. Okay. All right, so let's go to the math here. Okay, the first one, the answer will be, so you can stop me for the math as if you have questions. Number one, the answer is 120. 120. So we can set out the proportion, right? Because assume that the ratio of death resulting from colon cancer is colon cancer to death from diabetes 5 to 3. So you can say 5 colon cancer death to 3 diabetes, right? On this side. Set out the same proportion on the other side. You have 200 from colon cancer. How many out of X people with diabetes? So that's the ratio and proportion I can set up. Okay. Then if you do a cross product, you have your 5X is equal to 3 times 200, and then divide by 5, divide by 5. And then you have the answer, 120. Proportion. As I said, proportion is a key to passing this test. A lot of proportion can be used. Okay. Number two is A. 2 is A. So first find the increase of 15%, right? So 15% can work in decimals. So 0.15 times 220, which gives us 33. So that'll be $33 increase. So the new amount will be 220 plus 33. Okay, and then that'll give us our 253. Then number three, the answer is D. We want to find the greatest common factor, GCF. So you take the numbers first, 4 and 16. Which number can go into 4 and go into 16? You know, the largest factor of each of them, which is 4. And then between b cubed and b to the power 5, you're going to look at each of the variables too. You choose the one with the smallest exponent. So b to the power 3 is going to be part of it. Then d squared, and then d, smallest exponent. So d will be part of the factors. F to the power 1 and f to the power 3. F to the power 1 will be part of factors. Yeah. So that's why I have d, the greatest common factor. Use the smallest exponent for each of the variables to get a GCF for the variables. Then number four, the answer is 16. 16. You know the perimeter is given. You know the width. You want to find the length. So remember the formula is it's a rectangle. So if I have a rectangle, perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And then you plug in the numbers. This is 48. It's equal to 2 times the length, I don't know, let's say L, plus 2 times the width, which is 8. And then solve this. So that's 48 minus 16 is equal to 2L. So 32 is equal to 2L. Divide by 2, divide by 2. So L will be equal to 16. Okay, number 5. Number 5, the answer is B. If 250 ml of alcohol is combined with 450 ml of water, what percentage of alcohol, what is the percentage of alcohol in the resulting solution, right? So you need to find the total volume first. Total volume. So the total volume here is your 250 plus 450. So we have a total volume of 700 ml. So what percentage does the alcohol form? The alcohol forms, the fraction of alcohol is 250 out of the 700. Okay. So if I multiply this by 100, I'll get a percentage. Yeah. So that gives you the 35.7%. Total volume first. Number 6, the answer is 3. You're evaluating this, you're finding y, given that x is equal to 9. So you substitute 9 for x. So 3 times 9 is equal to 5y plus 12. Okay, so that's 27 is equal to 5y plus 12. Take away 12 from both sides. So we have 5y is equal to 27 minus 12, which gives us 15. Is equal to 5y. Divide by 5, divide by 5. So your y is equal to 3. Number 7, if you multiply this out, you should get the first one. You should get this. Number 8, you're dealing with a cube and you want to find the volume of the cube. So volume of a cube is equal to the area, base area times height. So in other words, the length times the width times the height. That will give the volume of the cube. So if you multiply all this out, this will be 13 by 14 by 6. And you get C. Number 9, adding fractions. If you add these fractions, you should have D. Okay. Before you add fractions, remember LCD, LCD. So the LCD here will be 20. So write each fraction as equivalent fraction with 20 as the base, so as a denominator. So it means that I have to multiply the 4 by 5 to get 20. So I will do the same to the numerator. So this should be 15. This is 5. So 5 times 4 gives me 20. So I have to do the same thing here to the numerator. So that will be 16. Okay. Same denominators, you can now add the numerators. So if I add, we'll have 3 plus 2 whole numbers, we'll have 5 whole numbers. And then for the fraction, 15 plus 16 is 31. 31 over 20. I can't leave my answer like this. So I have to break this down. How many 20s can I get out of 31? So I can do a long division. 20, 31. Divide that, I have 120 out of this, times 20 is 20, I have 11. So I'm going to end up with one whole number, which will answer 11 out of 20 left. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this one. I got the whole number to the whole number here, so that I have 6 whole numbers with 11 out of 20 parts. Number 10. Number 10, we have to simplify. So to simplify, we need to find, we have to ask ourselves, can I find common factors? Okay, can I see common factors? Yes, I have common factors here. So I'm going to factor out the x. So if I factor out x, I'll have x here minus y divided by common factor here is y. Y, and then I have y minus x. Okay. I can cross something out, but before I can do that, I have to make sure they look alike. How can I make them alike? X plus y, x or x minus y, I can switch positions and make it y minus x. If I switch positions in subtraction, I have to take the opposite of what I did. You know, remember if I said, if I write 2 minus 3, it's the same as 3 minus 2, but then I take the opposite of this and I arrive at the same answer. Okay. So I can do the same thing here. So I'll do y minus x, but the opposite, negative of that. So I'll put that in front of the x. So, you know, it should look like this. Opposite of the switch over y minus x. Now they look alike. Y minus x look alike. Now I can cross out and cross out that. So I have my answer as negative x over y. Okay. Negative x over y. So the answer should be B. Negative x over y. Okay. Number 11 is D. 11 is D. What percent of 85 is 5? You can use a percent proportion. So remember, part over whole or the base, or we can say the whole, is equal to percent over 100. 100 always goes to the base or the whole. Okay. And if you cast your mind back, we said the part is always associated with it like is, and then of something, of is associated with the base, right? So I asked myself, what is the base here? The base is of 85, so that would be the base. So 85 will be your base. Of base is a portion. So it's like is over of type of thing. The of is the 85, is a portion. So this is 5. Okay. So this is equal to, I don't know the percentage, so that's x over 100 always goes with the whole. Okay. So that will be a percent proportion. Okay. So if you do the cross product, then you have your answer. Multiply cross product, divide by 85, divide by 85. Then your x, you get 5.88%. Okay, so you can multiply 5 times 100, get the answer, divide by 85. Number 12. Number 12, the answer is 8. Sorry, it's C. You can use a back solving approach, right? Take each one and check to see if to satisfy both equations. 4x 2b is equal to 24. 3x plus 2b is equal to 16. All right, so if you look at the first one, 14 and 20, if I put 14 for x and then 20 for b, it's too big. It's like a big number. 4 times 14, very huge number, plus 2 times 20. It's not going to 24, so I'm not going to waste my time. So ignore this. If you put in 2 and 4, if you put 2 here, 4 times 2 plus 2 times 4, will it be 24? This is 8 plus 8, 24. No, this is not true. So again, this is not correct. So this is out. Yeah. If you try C, then you're going to realize that that is correct. 4 times 8 plus 2 times negative 4 should be equal to 24. This is 32 minus 8. Is it 24? Yes, 24 is equal to 24. So this is correct. The same thing should satisfy the second equation. So 3 times, now put in 8 here, plus 2 times 4 is negative 4. Should be equal to 16. This is 24 minus 8 equal to 16. Is that true? Yes. 16 equal to 16. So it is true. So it satisfies both equations. That's why it's the correct answer. So you can use back solving approach here. You know, if you put in D, you realize it doesn't work out. So back solving can help you eliminate. All right, number 13. What's the area of a triangle having a base 20 and a height 15? Area of a triangle. So answer here is 150. Half base times height. Area of a triangle, half base times the height. So 1/2, the base is 20 and the height is 15. So if you work this out, you have 150, 10 times 15. Number 14. 2 rectangles have the same ratio of length to width. The first rectangle is 9 by 15. So we have 9 by 15 centimeters. The second rectangle is 12 centimeters wide. So 12 here. And then they ask you what is the length. You don't know X. So since they have a fixed or same length width ratio, it means that they are similar rectangles. That's what I mean. So it's similar rectangles. So similar rectangles have same ratio of length times width. In other words, I can set up a proportion based on what I have here. So if I take the ratio of the length to the width here, length to the width of the first triangle or rectangle should be the same as ratio of the length of to the width of the second one. Okay. So we can set up, we can say 15 to 9 should be equal to X over 12. And I can do the cross product. 9x is equal to 15 times 12. Divide by 9, divide by 9. So your x will be equal to, you can use your calculator, or if you want to reduce to lowest terms, then 3 here is 3, 3 here is 12. So 3 to 12 is 4. 3 into itself is 1, 3 into 15 is 5. So 5 times 4, and then we have 20 centimeters. So the answer is C. So remember similar objects, similar figures. Ratio of the length to the width is constant. Okay, so 15. Two angles of a parallelogram measures 70 degrees. So parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel, parallel. So opposite angles are congruent, that means the same. So if this is 70 here, I expect the opposite angle here to be also 70. And I want to find, let's put X for this angle here, X. So we don't know this, we don't know that, missing. But we know that if I add all the angles in the parallelogram, I should get 360 degrees. Okay. Or if you take one side, like this, the angles on the same side, they should add up to 180. So this should add up 180, this side should add up to 180. That's another approach. Okay. So 180 minus 70, then we have the answer as 110. Okay. Or if you can't remember that part, then you have to work everything out and say 2x plus x plus 70 plus 70 is equal to 360. Total angles in it. It's a quadrilateral. So it's 360. And then if you solve this, so that would be 220 divided by 2 divided by 2, x will be equal to 110. Okay. So that's a little longer approach, but a quick approach, as I said, the angles on this side should add up to these two angles, and that should add up to 180. Okay, so I can quickly do 180 minus 70, and I get the same answer. That's a quick way. The exam going to work quickly. So you should have these ideas to use. Okay. If I add the angles here, it should also be the same. It should 180 as well. Okay. All right, number 16. Number 16, the answer is 500. Percentage, 11% of a number is 15. What is the number? We can set a percent proportion quickly. Percent, so 11 out of 100 is given. Is, so that is the portion. So that will go here, numerator, 55. What is the number of the number? I don't know the number. So the number is off. The number is X. So that is the base. Okay. And then cross product. If you do a cross product, you should get 500 for this one. So that's 11x is equal to 55 times 100. And then divide by 11, So your x will be 500. Okay. Number 17, the answer is D. Answer is D. Okay. So here you've been given the average feeding. And then you have 3 other feedings. You want to find the 4th one, right? So when they give the average feeding, you can use that to find the total amount of ounces that you have. Average means for each one. So there are 4 of them. I multiply by 4. Then I can find the total ounces of the feeding, of the food. So 4 times 7/1/4 should give us the total. If you're multiplying, you have to change to a mix, you have to change to an improper fraction. Improper fraction. So I have 4 times improper fraction. 7 times 4 is 28 plus 1, 29 over 4. I can put this over 1. 4 will cross out, so we have a total of 29 ounces for the feeding. I know 3 of these feedings. So to find the 4th one, it means I have to add all the 3 and then subtract from the total. So total for the 3 feedings, total for 3. Will be equal to 7.5 plus 7/3/8 plus 6/3/8. Okay. To add this again, we need LCD. We need the denominator have to be the same. So I'm going to write LCD is 8. So this should be 8. That means times 4 to get 8. So that's 4 numerator by 4. This will remain the same. So let's keep that. Then 6/3/8. Let's keep that too. So if you add all these numbers, the whole number is 7 plus 7 plus 6. That gives us 20. So 20 here. And then for the fractions, if you add all the fractions, 3 plus 7 is 10. So this is 4, 7, that is 10. So you have 10/8 over here. 10/8. Okay. So let's reduce this to the simple form. 10/8, that means how many? Let's reduce this to lowest tens first. This is the same as saying I have 25/4 here. Okay. But this is improper fraction, so change to a mixed number. So I divide 4 into the 5. That will give me 1 whole number and 1 left. So it's 1/4. So let's add a 1 to the 20. So I have 21/4 as the total if I add all the 3 numbers, or the 3 fractions. Okay. So how do I get a 4th one? So to get a 4th one, that means that I have to subtract from the 29. So 29 minus 21/4 to get a 4th. The 4th feeding. I can create a fraction from the 29. So I can subtract. So I'll borrow 1 from 29, so it becomes 28 whole numbers. The one that I borrow is in terms of 4 parts. So it's 4 out of 4. And then I can take this out of it. So we end up with 28 minus 21, which is 7. And then 4 minus 1, which is 3. So you have 3/4 as a 4th feeding. Okay. So this question involves multiplying, adding, and subtracting. Very good to use this to review for fractions. Multiplication, subtraction, and addition, all in one. Okay. So when you're doing the test, you have to balance your time. You know, some questions will be quick, some questions will take you a little bit more time. So you just have to balance. You know. And it counts by a lot of practice. Yes.
Where did you get the 28 4/4?
I'm out of the 29. You see, like if I write 29, right? 29, if I borrow one out of the 29, I'll have 28 whole numbers left, right? But the one that I borrowed is always equivalent to the denominator. But the denominator is how many parts we're dealing with, correct? So here I'm doing 4 parts over here. I want to break into 4 parts. So the 4 parts is the same as 4 out of 4. That's one whole number.
Okay, got it. Thank you for answering.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So number 18. Number 18, the answer is 84. 84. Okay. So here you can either use proportion or can just use your mind quickly to do it, in arithmetic to do it. How many 15s do you have in a second, in a minute? 15 seconds do you have in a minute? You have 4 of that. So if you have 21 bits, it means times 4. Right? You can use your arithmetic, or you can use a proportion approach. So let me use this to illustrate proportion again. So 21 bits, 15 seconds. That's the fraction, the ratio. Set out the same ratio on this side. You need bits, and then it should also be seconds. Ratio, 2 ratios make a proportion. Equal to each other makes a proportion. So if I do this, I know the bits is missing. I don't know, so X. Now seconds, 1 minute. I do a minute here. So that tells you have to work in seconds. Okay, the same ratio has to be here. So 1 minute, you know, that's 60 seconds. And then you can do your cross product. Okay, that's if you're using the proportion approach. Times 60. And then divide 15 by 15, and then you get the answer, 84. Okay. Or as I said, just use your just your quick senses to do it. You know, how many minutes, 15 seconds you have in a minute, and then you have 4 of that. So each 15 seconds, 21, you just multiply by 4. Use anything that can help you answer questions fast. All right, number 19, I believe you should to do that. So that is, if you multiply, you should get C. Number 20, if you divide, you should get 23. You should get 23. 21, you want to change to decimal. So change to decimal, you have to divide, right? You divide the 7 into 6. It should be like this, 7 to 6. Yeah. And then you're going to do 7 into 6, impossible, put 0. Then introduce the decimal point and a 0 here. And divide. So if we divide this, you have 8. 8 times that's 56. 4. You can keep adding zeros. 7 into 40. So that will give us 5. That's 35. Subtract, that's 5. Keep adding zeros. 49, right? So it goes into that 7 times. 7 times 7 is 49. We can keep going. That's 1. Add 0 again. That will be 1. Okay. Which is 7. Yeah. We can keep going, but then it just stopped at 3 decimal places. That means that you go to the 4th and then round up. If I round this up, 1 is less than 5. So if I have to neglect it, because it's less than 5. So I can just forget about the 1. And then the answer will be 0.857, just up to here. Okay. So we have 0.857B as the answer. Okay. 22. The recipe requires 3 1.5 cups of non-fat A person already has 3/4 cup. How much more is needed? So the key word is how much more. How much more means that you have to subtract something. Subtraction, how much more? Okay. So 3.5 minus 3/4. That's what we have to do. Subtraction of fractions, we said you need LCD. Addition and subtraction of fractions, LCD. Okay. So LCD here is 4. So let's write each fraction 4 as the denominator. So this is times 2. So I'm over this by 2. So this will be 2. Okay. Now look at what I'm going to do here. 2 minus 3 will give a negative number, right? So I don't want that here, because I can borrow from the 3. So I'm going to borrow from the 3. One whole number from the 3. If I borrow 1 from the 3, I'll have 2 whole numbers. Now the 1 that I borrowed from the 3, the 1, what's this equivalent to? It's equivalent to the number of parts that I'm using as a denominator. So the 1 is in terms of 4 out of 4. So it's 4 out of 4 parts. I take all the 4 parts out of the 4 divisions. That is 1. Yeah, so it's in terms of this denominator. So 4 out of 4. So this is 4 out of 4 parts. That is the 1 that I borrowed. Okay. So I add this to the 4 out of 4. I add the 4 to this number 2. So it's now becomes 6. I have 6 out of 4 like this. So 2, 6 out of 4. You're adding the 4 parts, 4 out of 4 plus 2 out of 4. 6 out of 4 minus the 3/4. Now I can subtract. 6 minus 3 is 3/4. And then 2 whole numbers here left. So it's 8. "23. 23, the answer is 14. Okay, again, can use proportion. 9.5%, so 9 out of 100 is given, that percentage given. For every 150 adults that visit, how many are expected to have this condition? So the base is the number of adults, which is 150. You want to find how many, what portion. So you find the part of this number. So that goes here. So X, I don't know, X. Yeah. And then do your cross product. 100X is equal to 150 times 9.5. So you're going to multiply this out and divide. Divide by 100, divide by 100. So your X will be, and then you can get 14.
Right.
Right, 24. 24, the answer is D. D. So the woman's diet contains 65% of the recommended amount of calcium. If the recommended amount is 18 milligrams, how much more calcium does the person need? Right, so the person is getting 65% or recommended. It means that I need to find 65% of the 18 to find how much he's getting. So I'll use a decimal form, 0.65 times 18 milligrams. So it means the person is getting 1.7 grams. Sorry, 11.7 grams. That's what the person is getting. No, milligrams, right? It's milligrams. Milligrams. But how much more? How much more does the person need? The recommended is 18, and the person is getting this amount. So I have to subtract. So 18 minus 1.7 milligrams. So if I subtract, then I end up with a 6.3 milligrams. How much more she needs. Okay. So find the percentage of recommended and then subtract. Number 25. sales tax. I use proportion here. So 6% sales tax on the textbook was this, right? So it means if you said that a proportion 6%, the percent 6 out of 100. Now, that means that's a portion. 6 corresponds to this. It is this. That's a tax, 6% tax. Means 6 out of every 100. You pay $6 out of every 100. So if it is a tax the person paid, you should go with the 6. So 3.54 over how much the textbook costs, the original, the whole. So this should be X here. Yeah. And I can solve the proportion. 6X is equal to 100 times 3.54. Divide. And then X will give us 59. So it's $59. Okay. Then 26. 26 is also a proportion. The answer is 400. 30% of a certain number is this, 120. So 30%, 30 out of 100 is, so you know the portion, 120. Of what number? A certain number, we don't know, so X. This is how your proportion should look like. And then solve it. 30X is equal to 100 by 120 divided by 30. Cross out, and then X will come out. You can reduce to lowest terms or use your calculator since you're allowed to use it. So this will cross out. 3 here is 1, 3 here is 4. 4 times 100, they have 400. $27, the answer is 255. 255. Again, you can use proportion. 3 ounces contain, supplies 153 calories. So 3 ounces for 153 calories. Same ratio here. You have 5 ounces, so that goes here, 5 ounces. How many calories? You don't know. Okay. And I can solve your proportion. 3 times X, 3X is equal to 5 times 153. Divide by 3, divide by 3. So 3 can go here 1 time, 3 here will be 51. 5 times that is 255 calories. $28. The answer is B. 28 is B. You spend 1/5 of your salary for taxes, 1/4 for rent, 1/10 for movies. What fraction of your salary is left for other expenses and savings? So you have to add them up to know how much you spent on all these things. And then you subtract from one whole, right? Anytime you do fractions, 1 whole is the total amount of fractions. So 1/5 plus 1/4 plus 1/10. I need to have the LCD to be able to add this up. So the LCD is 20. So this is times 4. So add this is also times 4. Times 5 to get 20, so times 5. This will be 5. Times 2 to get 20 here, so numerator times 2. So that will be 2. If you add all this, we have 4 plus 7, which is 11 out of 20. Okay. So you have 20 parts. You're taking 11 out of 20. How many parts will be left? You have 9 parts out of 20 left. In other words, you have 1 minus 11 over 20, which is the same as 20 out of 20 minus that, which is 9 over 20. So that's 20 out of 20 minus 11 over 20. That's what that means. You get that? Number 29. Okay, says 65% of student body of 2000 pass arithmetic exam. How many students did not pass? So he said did not pass. Okay, did not. So 65%. You have to find 65% of the 2000. So 0.65 times 2000. That gives us 1300. Okay, so these are those who passed the exam. By one did not pass, that means you have to subtract. So if you subtract, then you have 700 did not pass. So the answer should be A, did not pass. Number 30, the answer is A. Answer is A. So here you have to combine the like terms, right? Combine like terms here. So like terms, you have 3 over 4x. Like term, that's 1 over 6x. You're going to subtract that. And then combine 3 over 10y plus 2 over 5y, like terms. So since they are fractions, you need the LCD to combine similar like terms. So for this and that, LCD will be 12. So we're going to write each of them with LCD of 12. So this is times 3, so I multiply the numerator by 3, so I have 9x. This is times 2, so I multiply the numerator also by 2, so I have 2x here. Plus, now work out, combine the like terms here, LCD for 10 and 15. Sorry, 10 and 5. So that will be 10 plus 10 here. This will remain the same. I have 3y here. 5 times 2, that is 10. So I multiply the numerator by 2, which is also, that gives 4. Now we can simplify this. 9x minus 2x, that is 7x over 12. Plus 3 plus 7, that's 3 plus 4. That gives us 7. So 7y over 10. So that will be the answer, which is A. Number 31. Let's look at 31. 31 say if 1 quart is, if 1 quart equals 0.9 liters, how many quarts are there in 15 liters? You can do proportion. 1 quart is 0.9 liters. So it ought to be X, so X quarts over 15 liters, proportion. And then can do a cross product. Okay. So if you do a cross product, X 0.9x should be equal to 1 times 15. So that would be 15. And then divide to get your X. So once you divide this number, you should get 16 2/3. You know, it's going to give you like 16.00000, 16.6666666. You know. But you can, since it's in fraction, you can divide using a whole, what do you call it? You can do long division here. If it's difficult for you to see that 0.66 is 2/3. Then you have to use long division. To do that, it means you have to make the denominator a whole number. So if I made a denominator a whole number, that would be 9. It means the numerator I have to move the decimal point from the end to give me 150. If I multiply the denominator by 10, I get 9, right? So I do the same to the numerator. So I have 150. In other words, you're moving the decimal point to the right. Whatever to a denominator, do the same to the numerator. Then you can divide using long division. 9 into 150. If you can do that, and then you get the answer. 1, 9 here. They have 6, 0. Then you have 6. Okay. 56, or 54, and it can keep going, right? There's 1 point, 0 here. Divide, you can keep going. You get 66. Yeah. But since you don't want decimal, you just have to stop here. Like, you don't need to go the way. You don't want decimal. It's in fraction. So once you stop, you get here, you just stop. So that you have, the answer will be 16, whole numbers, remainder 6 out of 9. 6 out of 9. Reduce to lowest terms, 16, this will be 3 here. So 2 here over 3. Okay. All right, then 32. 32, the answer should be, all right, I fixed this one on the test that I gave to you. So this should be 23 to 9th, this answer here. Okay, all right, so you're multiplying, if you multiply, you have to change to an improper fraction first. You change to improper fraction, then you multiply, okay. I believe you should do that by now, so I'll just give you the answer. This should be the answer. Yeah. You should get D, 23 to 9th as your answer. Because 6 times 3 is 19, it's 18, 18 plus 1. So you have 19. Right, so you have 19. 19 over 3. 19 over 3 times 11 over 3, which is 209 over 9. And then simplify, you have 23 to 9th as your answer. Okay. All right, and then 33. 33, the answer is 21. I changed that one also on the one I gave to you. I fixed it. Originally, I had 7 here. So this is 21 up. This should be 21 here. And then this should be 7 here. Okay. So the answer that you get should be 21. Okay. The length of a rectangle, the rectangle is 3 times the width, 3 times the width. So the length is 3 times the width. So L is equal to 3W. Okay, let's think about the rectangle, width and length like that. Now what's the area? Area of rectangle is the length times the width. Area is equal to the length times the width. And you've given the area, 147. So I'm going to replace the length here with the width, so I can solve for the width. So the area 147 should be equal to the length, which is 3W, times the width. That gives us 147 is equal to 3W squared. right? So divide by 3. So if I divide by 3, both sides by 3, W squared will be equal to, this is 3 into 14, that is 4, remainder 1, remainder 2, 27. 27, that'll be 9. So you have W squared is equal to 49. It means W, I have to take the square root. If I take the square root of both sides, square root, so your W will be equal to 7. So it means the width is 7. If the width is 7, what is the length? The question said find the length. So I don't have to stop here. I know that the length is 3 times the width. So it means the length I have to multiply by 3. And that gives me the 21. So that's why this is the correct answer. Okay. Number 34. Number 34, the answer is C. Answer C for 34. You divide into fractions. So you have to keep the first fraction right times the reciprocal of the second fraction. So when we come here, we're going to do 13x squared y times negative 3 over x, reciprocal of what you have here, 1/3, right? So you multiply. All right, so we can now cross out. You see, like the x, one of the x here will cross the other x here. So we end up with 39, 3 times 13, 39. Then the x, one of them will cross out. You can put this over 1. If you don't think you're going to make an error, put this over 1. Then you know what to cross out. Okay. So have x and then 1y left. And this is negative. So negative 39x y. No, hold on. Negative 39 is D. Is this one D? Answer is D. And then number 35. So 35, you have 1/3, increase the number 1/3, increase the number 1/3 by 2/3 of itself. By 2/3 of itself. Let me get rid of this one here to have some space. So increase the number 1/3 by 2/3 of itself. So 1/3. If you increase this by 2/3 of itself, that means I have to multiply by 2/3. So 2/3 to find the increase. So 2/3 this time, that will be what? 2 over 9. So 2 over 9 will be the increase. So I have to add this 2 over 9 to the 1/3. So 1/3 plus 2 over 9. We are increasing it by 2/3 of itself. Okay. So multiply first and then add it to the 1/3. So since I'm doing 2 fractions, I need to LCD 9. This is times 3 times 3. So this will be 3 here. This will be 2. So that gives me 5 over 9. If you change to decimal, then you're going to have 0.5556. 0.5556 should be this. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, keeps going. Then 36, so the use of alcohol among military population decreased by 250 soldiers compared to the previous year. This represents 25% decline in the users. If the military population remains the same, how many soldiers still use alcohol? So this is 750, the answer is 750, okay. So what you have to do here is to find, the decrease is 250, right? And this represents 25% decline. You can set the proportion up. So 25% out of 100, that's a decline. And this is equivalent to 250. So this is 250. It goes to 250 out of how many people? We need to find the total number of people. That's what we can find. X. Because the 100 goes to the total. Okay. So if you cross multiply, we'll have 25. X is equal to 255 times 100 divided by 25. So X will be equal to 1,000. If you cross out, you get 1,000. So it means that that was the total number of soldiers, right? But the question says, how many, if the military population remains the same, how many of the soldiers still use alcohol? Still use alcohol. So this help us, what we set up here, help us find the total number. You've been told that the number of people who use alcohol decreased by 250, right? 250. So it means those who still use it is going to be 100,000 minus 250, and then that will give us 750 still using. So it's more like a two-step approach to this question. Okay. Then 37, the answer should be negative 22.5. Negative 22.5, this should be the answer here. Yeah. So what you do is you have to get rid of fraction. It's easier to get rid of fractions. So to get rid of fraction, multiply through by the common denominator. So the common denominator here, yeah, 1 second, my pen. Okay, good. So the LCD here is 3. So you're going to multiply through by 3, right? So 3 times 10, that will be 30 minus 2 times 3 times 2 over 3. That will, 3 will cross out, so you have 2x here. It's equal to 3 times 25, which will be 75. So if you can get rid of fractions like this, okay? Then rearrange, so we have negative 2x is equal to 75 minus 30. Negative 2x is equal to 45. And then divide by negative 2, negative 2. So your x will be equal to 22, negative 22.5. Yeah. Always get rid of fractions. 38 should be straightforward. Square root of 121 is 11. So this is 11 over 11, and then that should be 1. Okay. 39 is B. 39 is B. All right, it says you have 150 to live on for 2 months. If 1/3 is spent on food, 1/4 is spent on rent, how much is left for other expenses, all right? So here, 2 ways you can do this problem, 2 ways. You can find 1/3 of this, 1/4 of that, and add them up and then subtract from 1,500, right? You can subtract, or you can add up the fractions, how much is spent on food and rent. So it's 1/3 plus 1/4. the fraction spent on food and rent. LCD is 12 plus LCD here, 12 again. That would be 4 plus 3. So a total of 7 out of 12. So that's your fraction spent on food and rent. So how much was spent on other expenses? You have to subtract. So it's 1 minus 7 over 12, which is this 12 out of 12, right? So if you take 7 out of 12, you have 5 parts out of 12 left. So this is how much spent on other things as a fraction. So you're going to multiply, find 5 twelfths of 1,500. So 1,500 times that. So if you multiply this out, then you have your 625. Okay, so that's the other approach that you can do this question. Yeah. And it's 2 different ways. So the first way, you can find 1/3 of this, find 1/4 of that, right? Add the 2 up and then subtract from 1,500. You come up with the same answer. Okay. Great. So we have 2, I think 4 more to finish. I'll give you the answers here. So number 40. Number 40, the answer is D. Answer is D. If the sum of 3 numbers is 95, you know 2 of the numbers. What is the 3rd number, right? So it means that you have to add these 2 numbers first. Whatever we get, you subtract from 95. So adding 2 fractions, you need the LCD. So 2, 3, 2/3 plus 65, 3/4. Add this up first, right? LCD will be 12. So 23, this will be 8 plus 65, 12. This is times 3, so times 3 will be 9. So that gives us 88, 17 over 12, which is the same as, if I change this to improper fraction, a mixed number, change this to a mixed number, I have 89, 5 over 12 parts. Now we can subtract this from 95. Okay, create a fraction out of the 95. If I create a fraction here, this will be 94 and then 12 out of 12 minus 89, 5 out of 12. So if we do this, we end up with 5, 7 out of 12. That's the answer. Then 41. 41, the answer is C. Okay. Remember that this is the same as doing x minus 6 times x minus 6. That's what that means. You're squaring. Okay. So you can distribute this times that, x squared, this times that, minus 6x, innermost, minus 6x, and then outermost, plus 36. Okay. If add this, then you end up with the answer here. Okay. So don't be caught up in the trap where people just square the x and square the 6. No, you really have to multiply it by itself like this. And then 42, answer is 1. 42, the answer is 1 gram. So the person should 250 milligrams 4 times a day. It means for a day, the person will be using 250 times 4. So that will give us 1,000 milligrams per day. But you want the answer in grams. So remember that 1 gram is the same as 1,000 milligrams, right? The conversion units. So if I have 1,000 grams, it means I have 1 gram. Then number 43, the answer is 16.3, 16.3. The average of four numbers is 26. If three of the numbers are given, what's the fourth one? Okay, so you have to find the total first, like we did for the other fraction. So total, there are four numbers. So 4 times 26 will be the total, which is 104. You know three of the numbers, so sum them up. Sum of the three numbers. So if you sum this up, the three numbers, you have 12.5 plus 30.4 plus 44.8. So that gives us 87.7. So the fourth number, you have to subtract. So the fourth number will be equal to, so you have to subtract that. Fourth number is equal to 104 minus 87.7, which is 16.3. Okay. And then 44, the answer is C. 44 answer is C. So remember to distribute. We have negative sign in front of parentheses. It affects everything, all the signs within the parentheses. So 8 times, here we have 8 minus 3 times x, negative 3 times, that will be negative 3x. Negative times negative becomes positive. Positive 15y, and then plus 3y. Okay, then put the like terms together. These are the two like terms here, the y. They have 8 minus 3x plus 18y. Okay, C. Okay. And then the last one, the answer should be 576. 576. So how many of the 6 by 6 inch tiles will be needed to cover 12 by 12 foot floor? Okay. So remember, if you look at the units, we have inches and foot. You have to make sure you have the same units before you can divide this. So we have to find a bigger area by multiplying this out, and then the small area, the small tile, and then divide the small into the big. But you have to convert. So let's change the 12 into inches, 12 feet into inches. We can do all this together, so I can do 12 feet. So times 12. That will give me inches for this 12 feet here, times, change this to inches. So it's 12 by 12 again. So we've changed everything to inches. Everything's inches now. Divide this by 6 by 6. 6 by 6. Right? So that will be the area. So the area of the big tile, which is this, divided by the area of the small tile. Area of large divided by area of small. That's what we are doing. Okay. So if I write it like this, I can easily cross things out. 6 into itself is 1, 6 into 12 is 2. This 6 can go into itself 1, 6 can go here another 2 times. So if I multiply all these numbers, then I'll come up with 576 as my answer. It's 576. 4 times 144. So this is how the test goes.